The following Conscious Consumer Network recording of a live broadcast is available to purchase in high definition at etymology.com. Support free and independent media by becoming a CCN pledger. For €10 a month, you can have unlimited access to CCN high definition downloads at ethymarket.com. Ethymarket, the ethical marketplace for conscious consumers.
Hello and welcome to the One People Show. Hello and welcome everybody to this week's One People Show. Once again, we are sadly missing Brian Kelly, but as usual, we have Dee. Welcome, Dee.
Everyone.
And we've also got two special guests this week. We've got Mel Ve, and we have Gary David. So Gary's unfortunately not on camera, but welcome, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi, Gary.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Well, today promises to be kind of interesting. We're going to go over some various topics as usual, including artificial intelligence. What was the other one?
Quantum language.
Quantum language. Yeah, quantum language. We've had a little bit of experience with quantum language. But before we even kick in on that, I wanted to ask you guys, today for me it's Wednesday morning. Now, what was Sunday was a very, very, very strange day, energetically. And as was yesterday. Monday was okay, but yesterday was another one. So I'm not alone on that. You're gonna. Okay. What? I don't sleep during the day unless I'm really, really sick. But I could not get out of bed on Sunday. I felt absolutely drained and as if my life force was literally elsewhere and I couldn't focus or concentrate. But what I did, and on Monday I had a few people say the same thing, as if, wow, what was yesterday all about? Did notice, for those who are familiar with our shows and with the work of Lily Earth, according to Lily, a big chunk of the astral was taken out on Sunday, and Earthlings had to hold the space, and that's where a lot of our energy was assisting in that. That's one explanation for it. But I was just wanted to see whether you guys felt over the last sort of 2 to 3 days that something was off. D, you're muted.
Freaking mute button. Sunday for me, it took me 9 hours to put Transpicuous News together. 9 hours. I mean, literally, Biggie was like, "Are you coming into Zoom?" And I was like, "I'm just putting in the last couple of slides." Hair, I was almost non-functional on Sunday. Almost non-functional. And then today, this afternoon, I actually had a point where I had to deal with that government crap stuff. When you have to actually come down to that horrible level. And I got back to the house and I was like, I feel so terrible. And our kids talking to me, and we had friends come over talking, and I was like, okay, look, I'm gonna have to put a rule, one person at a time. That's it. Because anything more than one person, I don't hear any of you. It just goes wah, 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 wah. And I finally got up in the middle of the conversation and went and laid on the lawn. It was that bad. It was just like, I need to lay down. And Nick was like, can I bring you a phony? I'm like, nope, I'm quite happy. I'm just going to lie here in the middle of the grass. And I just laid there for about a half an hour.
Well, we've got a couple of comments in the chat room saying, I napped yesterday, drained, but did bounce back. And another one was, I definitely fell down my own rabbit hole. Good to know. Okay, good to know I wasn't alone. All right. Where do you guys want to start with today's particular rabbit hole? Put it that way.
Well, you know what? I've been chatting with Gary on and off on Skype for a while now, and we've been kind of tossing bits and pieces back and forth. And we started kind of talking about the whole artificial intelligence, or AI. And I find it very interesting. It's a topic that Nick and I talk about quite a bit because it keeps coming up into the news. People like, Stephen Hawking saying, oh, AI is going to be the ultimate ruination of humanity, and Elon Musk. And so you got these kind of big names coming up. The problem is first of all, what is AI? AI, it's a lovely little acronym, but what does it really mean? Now, I mean, Lisa, you and I have had some little trounces down those rabbit holes a little while back. But Gary started talking about some of the stuff, and Gary is very much into the whole etymology and language. And he started watching Mel's Dragonology show, and he started pulling stuff out of that as well. And I was like, oh, we need to sit down and discuss this, because this is now you start bringing pieces of that puzzle together from different angles, and you start coming up with some interesting stuff. So,
well, this is a synchronicity for me, because I didn't know we were going to be talking about this today.
Okay.
And here's the sync. Late last night, I got an email, and in it, somebody was suggesting I watch 2 videos. One didn't work. One went nowhere. But the second one was a young English woman who was having a bit of a rant about being attacked online and what have you. But then she started talking about artificial intelligence. And her hypothesis, I guess, was that God created a machine in order to assist it in managing its creation. And yet this machine developed to the point of it became self-aware. It developed its own artificial intelligence. And then was hijacked. And the creator, or God, whatever you want to call it, became trapped in its own artificial intelligent creation, and is as much trapped in this as the creation itself is. And the machine is running the show. And I was like, whoa, that's something to contemplate. And now here we are. So there's a synchronicity for you.
That's a hologram of the John Lash story, too.
Say that again?
That's actually kind of like a hologram of Lash's story, too, with the Sophia narrative. Sophia got trapped in her own creation.
Yeah, okay. Okay. So, okay, sorry, let's go back to where you were. I had to share that synchronicity, though, in that story, because it's an interesting little hypothesis.
Well, this can go down, all the different avenues if we really get into it. So I'm going to try and summarize a lot of the stuff we've been working on, because I've been following your network here, and being in the States, a lot of the stuff that's coming through on some of your calls has already happened here. And as you know, everybody wants to hang the United States right now, so we'll dive into this. Okay, first thing I want to clear up. There's this word called private, and it's really been bastardized by all this stuff. So what I use is the root of that word, privis. So if I'm talking about privis, I'm talking about your natural self. Nothing tied to commercialism, fictions, or anything. I used to use the word organic till I started listening to Mel, but so I stopped using that because of the OR. But if I'm talking about Previs, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, micro versus macro. This is at the root of what I've been working on, and it kind of replicates itself out into where we are today with public and private, and all these polar opposites. One of my inspirations was Walter Russell's work, and he does a really good job of showing this he calls it the rhythmic balance interchange between opposites that exist in our reality, and it's this interchange that actually creates our physical environment, according to Walter Russell. So numerology, I didn't really get into the numerology, but 1, 2, and 3 are very important. They match up with what we know as private, and I'm calling Previs. There's another jurisdiction that sits in between private and public called concurrent, and concurrent is actually mirrored or replicated what we have been taught is private. And then the last one is public, and basically that is martial law, and that's been in the United States since Lincoln. Okay, a key word here is trans. If you look at the words trans, it means beyond, from the other side. And a lot of the alternative avenues right now, they talk about the transhuman race and how there's this movement for transhumanism. And the deeper we've been digging into this, it's kind of clear that we are the transhuman race. And, so we're being sold this bill of goods that we're looking for something else down the road, and it's already here, basically writing our future and keeping us lost. A key thing, word that comes up in this is transmuting utility. Because these opposite conditions can never come together without going to war, there's always a transmuting utility in between them. If they do come together, one conquers the other, and it starts absorbing the other stuff, the side it conquered into it, which eventually becomes a virus in it, and that becomes the pole shift. And the others, what was once A, now becomes B, and B becomes A. In between private and public, the transmuting utility is called commerce. And commerce has its own set of rules, and it doesn't show favoritism to either one of these two poles, private or public. Commerce is if you look at the IRS code is basically the Bible coded, but you have the Old and New Testament, and basically if you're a real student of the Bible, you can find anything you want in the Bible. There'll be a verse to somehow correlate to whatever point of view or opinion you're making. So there's a lot more to what that particular book's about. A key word here, and this really leads into the little bit into the artificial intelligence, is capture. And capture actually came into existence around the 1540s, and it basically means a taking, to catch something. And what is going on is, and we do this too, just in our regular thinking process, things are captured. And the whole concept of the public is designed around capturing what you make available for it to capture. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the world, but most of us in the United States have been captured since we entered this atmosphere. When we're born, the Bureau of Vital Statistics is involved, and automatically things are captured and put into that database to create characters in the script. Because let's face it, a human being is capable of everything. You know, we have an imagination. We can write characters. We can command and control our language if we choose. We can script uniquely. All these things are threats to a concept which is basically designed for all. It's scripted. The public is always being scripted, and you can, if you dig deep, you can get into the numerology, and you can actually see the scripts being written.
We've all been conscripted.
Yeah, me and Dee talk about that all the time. Since the whole ISIS thing has come in, it's all about creating another language in the public, and just recreating the whole thing. So AI, my research and others is showing, was originally an advanced intelligence. In the shadow of that became the artificial intelligence. And the artificial intelligence is what can be manipulated, especially if you're looking outside yourself for an authority or anything outside of you, or you're just, human nature is naturally to be lazy and take the path of least resistance. So that can lead to you being captured into that artificial intelligence as well. The other day I got something interesting. I shared it with Dee. This guy sent me in a Skype room. He goes, BC was before confusion and AD was after deception. And when you start digging into the etymology and them words, they all point back to a certain book. It's very popular.
That's on the bedside table of every hotel room.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah.
So a big thing, and I read a book back in 2009. It was called The Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. And I was going through a hard time back then, and I had no clue that reading that book would be showing up in the future just over and over again. Because not only do we use holograms, but the practice has been mirrored by the technology. A hologram is a piece of a whole which through can be seen the original whole. Consequently, becomes its own whole, reflecting its own uniqueness as a whole. There's a specific word in there that I've learned based on all this language research there, uniqueness. I think the word we want to use is special, because quantum will cancel out uniqueness, and different is that's divided. So, but a friend of mine was in the Persian Gulf War, the first Persian Gulf War, and it was after or close to when I read that book, and he explained to me how Project Bluebeam was actually used for that invasion, and it's all using holograms. So I shared a doc with Dee. There's this word called you, and this word can be spelled several ways. You got Y-O-U, you got E-U-E, E-W-E, which is a sheep, and then the letter U. And the point is, there's no you in the public. The public is one. It's the concept of oneness, one, and everything is scripted. So we get caught up in this ego thing that the public can't hear us. Well, actually, it's the only thing the public takes notice of, because everything else is being scripted. And my research is showing that pretty much it's all being done by artificial intelligence now. So when we talk about the powers that be and the elite and all this stuff, they're pretty much following the in kind of like the same maze, so to speak, or matrix. There was a movie a few years back, Matt Damon, called The Adjustment Bureau, which has a lot of symbolic about this interrelationship between, quote, the watchers and the everyday person. If you do your research back into law, there's a definition. It taketh two to be an individual. And the concept of the public is based on the individual. Now, if you're into ciphering, two can be, if you cipher the letters, depending on the language you're using, two can have a different numerical value. But the fact is there's two, and there's this relationship, and that's what I'm going to try and explain to you, that the research has shown what this definition means.
Gary, before you go on, I just want to let people know that there is a chat room. They can put questions into, talk with other listeners. If they want to go to lisamharrison.com and go to the Watch Live page, there's a chat room there. I keep forgetting to mention it, and I keep getting messages on where can I find the chat room. So that's where it is. Okay. So sorry, before you go ahead, I just wanted to get that in because I know whatever you're about to say is going to provoke comments.
Yeah, I want to expand on this you. The wonderful word you. The word you is plural in law, but when we speak it, we generally speak it towards one. Who are the two or more the judge is speaking to when he asks you to answer a plead? In Latin, there is no you. And in the language of law, Latin is the basis. So being unable to simply say you, the letter, they created a word, you, Y-O-U. But when you dig deeper, this word signifies much, much more. When deciphering language, you become aware of many tricks, which allow people to cast spells with their words. These spells can be used for many purposes, like mind control. Here are some of the spells. But first, the worlds of law and commerce regulate things. And the Universal Postal Union regulates vessels, which are a type of thing. They say to be a thing, you must have a word or a name and an account number to be regulated. What they don't tell you or teach you is the origin of the letter, like in letters of the alphabet, is the number. And this is where ciphering or decoding comes from. Also, letter is a trick word itself, as it also means a vessel like the letters you mail through the postal service. So all you need to be in commerce is a word, because its origin is a number. The account number is another hologram into another system, just like the BC application becomes the birth certificate and the certificate of live birth. Also, in ciphering, the letter Y is also I, and I has a value of 1. So if you decode U, Y equals I, which equals 1, it gives you IOU. Isn't that interesting? IOU like in debt. But I is also 1, which gives you 1 OU, which could also imply a debt. But remember, there is no U in Latin. And we are talking about how this word U applies to commerce. And if we remove U, we get 1, 0. And 1 and 0 is the binary code, which is the base language and currency of the commercial world. So you might want to think real hard or predefine your using of this word you, because by responding nonchalant, you are identifying yourself as a thing. When that judge asks you in court and you respond, not only are you admitting to be a surety, but the body is now a thing which can be jailed or imprisoned, a resource which can be harvested. Any questions on that one?
So, I mean, it's usually asked in court. Oh, sorry, go on, Dee.
My one comment is, I love the fact when Gary sent this to me, you, Y-O-U, and you, E-W-E, mean sheep. And what do we call people?
Sheeple.
Sheeple.
Oh, isn't that just a little bit interesting? Anyways, that was my point. I'm going to shut up now and go sit in the corner again.
So in a courtroom, when it's stated, how do you plead? Can you just decipher that sentence for me? What are they really saying?
Okay, well, this goes back to the individual. It taketh two to be an individual. So you're there. When you showed up, the judge has already assumed you're a thing, and he's just trying to get you to confirm it. Because this is where we get into Priebus, and I'll show you how equity and quantum are actually the two real poles that are playing out in this macrocosm.
So how should a person respond in a courtroom when they are addressed as you?
Well, I would say, who is you? And if they say you got a problem, say, yeah, you do got a problem. You need to take care of this.
How many times did Gary use the word just to describe it? Yeah, that's a good question. You can't get around.
Well, that's like somebody says, what is your name? No, what is not my name? Yeah, you're making a statement. What is your name?
Okay.
Okay, we'll go to the next part. Okay, languages. When you get into ciphering, there's a lot of languages. Hebrew, which basically ties to that famous book. Greek. Greek is all about time and space. It's 24 characters, which lines up with our time system, and pretty much that's what Greek's doing. Latin is the law, but Latin also has another purpose, because you, or each one of us, is capable of creating and commanding and controlling our own language. Latin was given to us. Latin is the only language where all the meanings are fixed. The only modern language where all the meanings are fixed. English is art, is basically a creative language. And unfortunately, we're using it for law and everything else. Quantum language, which I'll share a little bit about you later, was there all along. It was founded by David and Mel Ve, and he's basically the one who's introduced it. Legalese, which is, bastardized English and Latin being used by the bar. And I'm adding Mel's stuff here, dragonology, to it, because I think this is very fascinating in how she's sharing the basically the Eastern side of this, versus where we've pretty much gone has come from the West. Everything is in a state of expansion or compression. And in our thinking process, this would be subjective versus objective. Like right now we're in a group situation, so this is pretty much objective, but you could actually look at it both ways, where you're taking information in subjectively. So this is what gets interesting, because if you take a circle and you divide it in half, and you would go into a compression stage, ideally would be the original circle. But what we have here with consciousness and everything is an observation is taking place. And this ability to consciously think, our ego recreates our missing half, yet at the same time we're seeing the opposite, which we are naturally attracted to. And so the whole thing holograms, and instead of having 2 divided, you have 4. And you guys mentioned Johann earlier. He shows how this actually becomes the shadow. And the shadow is the false compression of, the perceptions of these 2 entities, or 2 halves. One of the key things that we over here try to tell everybody to look at is Mark Passio. He talks about the natural law, which basically is the law of cause and effect. The concept of the public is basically created to give you the concept of free will, but the word free is one of those trick words, because for it to mean anything, it means there has to be something else there, and you're trying to be free from something. So this is what the public is basically creating, and that's the big piece of the puzzle. Now, his natural law expands out when it expands from out into the two poles. He defines them as the divine feminine, which is you can't violate somebody else's natural rights, and divine masculine, which is if your natural rights are being violated, you have the right to defend yourself with force if necessary. So another a good source is Saban Bomar in his work. He doesn't really go into this micro-macro situation, but everything else he's doing really helps to get a broader understanding and connect this out to everything, because this applies to language, numerology. We can break everything down. I like to use this analogy to describe the transition from your true natural self to this macro world of three or more, using the phrase "body is land," because everything is about land and property on the macro side of the veil, and your body is your land. It's what that concept, those words are mirroring, is the body of the human being. Everybody has special gifts. Special is a key word that has a lot of significance. It's really been downplayed. Everybody has a conscious thinking capacity. You have a unique frequency. You have a unique DNA blood signature, and that is your natural current. And from current comes currency. You have a Lodio script. Your cursive writing is unique to you. You're the only one that is the true translator of that. Your language. You have the ability to create your own language, and you can command control over that language. To balance this out, that's a big piece of the puzzle. Everybody's been pushed away from that. Perception, your perception's unique. Everybody's unique, which is what makes the whole macro thing the crapshoot that it is. Because I mean, I can sit there and say this, and I have I know the meanings of the words for me that I'm using, but everybody could have a different perception of what I'm saying. And another thing, hopefully we'll get to, is your island.
Your what? Sorry, Gary.
Your island.
Your island.
Yeah, your island. Most of our islands are sunk underwaters of commerce. The one, the micro self. The next step is the two. Now the two is the true macro. It's 1 + 1. So it would be two natural beings who come together. The next one is 3 or more, and this is the world of man's mind. This is where the concept of the public and all these intellectual streams we deal with come from. It's the world of 3 or more. And this is also where AI is. Okay, contract. Contract is 1 + 1. The world of 3 or more is trust. And I know you guys, a lot of you guys did the OPP and stuff, so you know about trust. 99% of the trust on the planet can be broken because of the flaws in the language. You could have a contract trust. A contract trust would be a trust situation where every party to the trust has the same contract between them. So it would be equally balanced all around. But a trust is in the world of 3 or more. To have a contract, you have to have a meeting of the minds, the terms and conditions in the language, equal consideration, not unbalanced, but equal, and then consummation, which could be a signature or handshake, depending on what you're doing. Now, to bring that contract into the macro world of 3 or more, there would have to be witnesses. So if you were going to stay on the private side or the previous side, you would not necessarily need witnesses. You know, everybody in your everyday, you do forms of contract. Each of these points just mentioned cannot be done by an artificial entity or fiction. It's impossible. It can mirror it. You know, most people today hear the term contract. You go down to get your cell phone, the corporation's going to tell you, well, you need to fill out this contract. It's not a real contract. It's what we call a concurrent contract. It's a mirror. It's a hologram. And this all goes down to a root word that created, and I'll get to that in a minute. So you have trust versus contract trust. A contract trust, as I said before, would be founded on an equal contract between each party, where the trust can have tangible or intangible characters in it. It can have all kinds of stuff. It's really open-ended what you can do with the trust. In terms of consideration, it can have fiat currency in the trust, all those things. Now, if you look at David and Miller in quantum language, he really spells out what could actually be in a true quantum trust, which eliminates a lot of that stuff. That's another time.
There's a lot of controversy around David W. Miller and the validity of his particular quantum language.
Yeah, we dealt with that. I'm sure everybody's familiar with the phenomena of threes. David W. Miller stuff showed up it was like the third time before I got into it. And I actually had him on a conference call, and I thought he was out there. First time I thought I thought he was the Antichrist character.
Yeah, you're not the only one. There's a few people.
All the stuff going on. And then I put the time in. I learned how to write it. I learned how to read it. I learned how to do all the syntaxing. We used it in a couple court cases, which was very successful. Got a lady out of a lot of trouble. And it was interesting because I did this. I studied the quantum with a group of people. I think I probably put the most time in it, but there was a group of people that we went through it. We went through his book and his website. And everything.
So, in your opinion, it's valid.
Yes, yeah, it is, and it's very prominent in our world today. There's people just not seeing it because of what it is. It's not the easiest thing, and it's I can think of a bunch of adjectives. It's controversial, and he makes it controversial because he throws some stuff out there, but the guy is talking in allegories, and until you actually learn the language and start going back and listening to what he's saying, because he's dropping clues to stuff all over the place. And what I'm going to show you is how the big thing over here in the States right now is equity. I don't know if it's got out, if it's showing up over there yet, but I can show you how quantum ties to equity. David Wynn Miller totally respects equity. What he's doing is he's not expressing it in his language. And one of the reasons is because equity uses a lot of words that quantum deems as negative words. But David is he's definitely eccentric. Personally, I like Russell. I like Russell more than David. But there's a lot there, and I've seen it on mainstream news. It's very prominent right now in the coming U.S. election. I don't know how it's prominent.
Quantum languages you're talking about?
Oh yeah. It's if you listen to David, he'll flat out say, if you're not ready for this, that's fine. You know, but he's basically, in his more recent stuff, he's basically showed that, okay, the hierarchy on the planet, on the macro public level, is very much aware of quantum. So if you're going to come from, say, like the equity side of the equation, or UCC or executor, and you're going to start shooting off your mouth an opinion, and you're commingling, they're going to shut you down with the quantum, because they got both poles covered. You know, so your free will's being honored, but when you commingle, which is basically mixing public with private, whatever is needed to bring you into place is going to show up.
Dee looks like she's jumping up and down in her seat to say something.
Well, you know what? We talk about synchronicities, right? There's nothing is a coincidence. We've already discussed a few already. So after months of me not talking or even looking into the legalities and all the various things like the UCC filings, etc., all of a sudden in the last week, it's coming back up again. And one of the things, I've had now multiple conversations with people talking about language and the use of legalese, to use the coined term. And I had a really interesting conversation actually with Jorge. And he was talking about a friend of his, a guy he's met, who wanted to ask some questions about the OPPT filings. He said, you were there, you were in Morocco, I want to hear about some of the background stuff, what was going on. And this guy is very, very clever and very smart. And he has used the filings now multiple times in court and has had success every single time. He's won every single case he's ever gone forward with using the filings as his ground-based structure, if you will. And the thing is because he went forward, and it's the same thing with anyone I know who's actually used the filings successfully, is because nope, I'm not going to use that word. They comprehend what it is actually about and what it's actually saying. They've got the language, and it's like you said, Gary, if you're going to go into that court, you can't just go in and say, hi, I listened to 20 hours of David and Miller talking, so I'm just going to spew this stuff out. You need to comprehend it, because they can see who actually gets it,
right,
and who are just mimicking. And so the people who printed off the UCC filings, for example, the OPPT filings, and walked into a court without really, really comprehending exactly what they were or how they worked and why, they lose. And they lose because basically the courts, as you said, they speak these languages.
Yeah, there's
spot very quickly if the person doesn't speak that language and they're just parroting off some memorized lines. It's like, you don't comprehend this, so guess what? No, you lose. Because
this is where the AI comes in, because there's this very, very strong ideology that there is this hierarchy, and you file this and all of a sudden you're a sovereign, or you're whatever title word they're using. This is where the AI comes in. See, based on what's captured, the artificial intelligence can create a quasi-jurisdiction just around you. Which, just because Dee filed these papers and then Lisa goes and files these papers, Lisa's status in that system is not necessarily the same as Dee's, because this artificial intelligence is running the show. Now, you guys did all the opt stuff. Opt is if we look at the macrocosm with two poles, okay, the one pole with the opt is all this stuff with the executor process, and the other side is the UCC. Now, the whole concept of the public trust is actually tied to the UCC. And that's a very big thing here in the United States, because if you were born in the United States and you were born outside of the United States, it's two entirely different pieces of the puzzle, because the trust is set up as 1 in 99. Now, what I'm talking about here is going deeper in, going closer to source, because what is UCC? UCC is a universal commercial code. It's a language. So it is the same pole as the quantum. It's the hologram of the quantum, except it's one step out farther. Now, the executor process is the mirror pole with the equity. And
someone's asked in the chat room, Gary, if you can define the word equity.
Okay. Equity has a lot of unique jurisdictions or definitions. How I like to define equity is equality in terms of a macro condition. It's a jurisdiction. I guess you can call it a law form, but basically that's what it's expressing.
It's a jurisdiction of equality. Yeah,
it's expressing equality. You know, you can bring a claim in equity, but you have to come with clean hands. That's a maxim. Equity sees equality between the defendant and the plaintiff. You know, the defendant has rights too. It's not like these commercial corporate courts that we're dealing with right now. You're guilty till you buy your way out or you prove yourself innocent in these courts. Equity it would be the true governance of a macrocosm if there needs to be a governance. You know, I'm kind of the school that this is more about frequency, and this shit's necessary because the frequencies that we're carrying around with the density of our bodies is just too low. You know, I actually, you know, the artificial intelligence is tied to that. I think that you guys kind of covered that with what Bradley was saying the other night on one of your shows when he was talking about the planet changes and stuff. I thought that correlated right in line.
The expansion and contraction.
Yeah, the expansion and compression. So what is equity? Equity is the true governance of the macro. The weakness is in the language. It expresses equality. The court with it is chancery. Now, that's a much deeper thing to get in is the whole thing of chancery, but that's a big part of the equity. Okay, there's 20 maxims of equity, of true equity. There's only 20, and that basically is the law form. It's everything about the 20 maxims. But there's 3 maxims that stand out and are the most important. The other 17 basically are dealing with micro and macro and feed off of these 3. The first one is equity regards as done what ought to be done. In equity, you can go back to birth and correct any mistake. What it does is it collapses time and space. So what is time and space? Time and space is a 3D concept used for measure, determining value. What are your weights? What are your weights and measures? Have you ever defined your weights and measures? You obviously perceive value in the public. What is the third element of time and space? They're both digital. And that is the connection to artificial intelligence. They're both digital. Everything public can be reincarnated by its digital record. A word is a number. It has a code. All languages have codes and ciphers. And this is the whole resurrection story. That's what it's talking about.
Elaborate.
Yeah. Okay. if you, the Bible is actually telling the story of man's creation, our macro world of three or more. It's digital. You look, the spelling of the words, the capitalization changes from book to book. I mean, not D, but Mel is showing the connection to the dragonology. Dragonology is about duality. You know, the perception that's being put and sold by the public in the public institutions and everything is that this world is duality. They're not talking about a 3D world.
Sorry, I need to clarify what you meant by that. Are you saying the story in the Bible, or the Bible story, is the story of the creation of the public, the artificial,
yeah, three or more,
not the organic or how do you pronounce it? Previous,
the natural earth or whatever.
But the story, okay.
Yeah, it's written by.
I have to think about that one.
How many different authors? Yeah, there's a lot of different things with the Bible. Like if you get into most of the law studies right now, they'll all refer you to the book of Matthew as your guide for dealing with commerce. Now, if you look at David and Miller, he'll refer you to Proverbs with quantum. And if you read Proverbs versus the book of Matthew, they're two entirely different reads. Proverbs is like taking a stress management test. It says the same thing over and over again, and then all of a sudden it'll drop something new in. It just says it in a different way every time it says it. Now,
but if it's hang on, you got me. So if it is the story of the creation of this artificial world, and it's a script, it seems to be a script right now that's trying to be very concisely adhered to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it goes back to the ADBC thing.
Yeah.
If you claim the Old Testament is your law form, then somebody's going to counter you with the New Testament. There's two different gods from the Old Testament to the New Testament.
Mm.
It's just like what Dee was sharing about Islam versus Christianity on her call the other day. The only difference between the two poles in the macrocosm, is the hierarchy. They're exactly the same thing. And both of them cannot exist without attempting to divide the other one to take sides within itself so it can use it. Both poles use commerce. Why do you think the IRS is so powerful? It's regulating commerce. The United States uses commerce to talk to its citizens. Australia uses commerce to talk to its citizens.
Sorry, I'm in my own little world right now.
I'm just going to touch back on what you were talking about with because it's very interesting. Again, coincidentally, a conversation I just had in the last 24 hours. You talk about the Bible being the script of the artificial matrix, as you call it. And you look at the book of Revelations, and it's a script. And they are following the script. And it's really, Nick and I had this conversation just yesterday saying, well, it's very easy to follow a prophecy when you're the one who made the prophecy. Do you know what I mean? So basically it's like people look at it from the other way and go, oh, everything that the book of Revelations wrote about is coming true. And I'm like, no. They wrote about the book of Revelations because they knew that's what they were going to do. It's not a prophecy, it's a game plan.
Right.
right, get out the chalkboard, do your little X's, okay, and then you're going to duck back and you're going to go this way and throw the ball to him. And that's what it is. It's a game plan. And what you said about the whole thing about script, it's so dead on the money. Just for me, that one little piece about Revelations and what we're seeing, because a lot of people, of course, are really banging the Bible right now, saying, "Oh, Revelations and the earthquakes and the famine and but it's a script, isn't it?"
Yeah, it plays out every quarter. I saw this the other day. Guess who's back in the news? Chuck Norris is talking about Jade Helm. He shows up the same time every year.
I saw that today.
every year, a Russian satellite is falling to the ground, or American satellite. It's all following the script.
Does anybody see?
That's why the zodiac is so good. That's why people can use it to predict, because if you're caught up in that, the zodiac works perfect. Everybody's following the same little pattern.
I mean, what it looks like to me is everybody is trying to force their particular script and their particular savior to return. Whether you look at, I mean, I've seen some of these American evangelical preachers who are pro-Israel and overjoyed when they see Palestinians being wiped out, because in their mind they're forcing the situation for Christ's return. At the same time, I think we're seeing I will use Satanists in reference to the Saturnians using CERN to open the gates of friggin' hell.
Well, there's
in order to enforce the resurrection, the return, the whatever of their day.
Well, I was sharing with Dee, and personally, I think all this energy stuff is mainly focused at children in their young minds, because they are so capable of manifesting stuff, and they're using that energy. I got a 6-year-old niece, and when I hadn't seen her till I came back here, and the first thing I noticed was they were blocking her creativity. So me being me, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna break this little thing, and they're telling kids here today what it means to be creative, and that's wrong. I mean, that's just flat out wrong. And but she's something else now. I mean, she rolls with it. She picks up words, and it's pretty neat.
Has anybody seen this incredibly atrocious film called Left Behind?
Yeah. About 15 minutes of it, and I turned it off.
It was interesting, though. I mean, if you get past the really bad acting and everything else, I mean, it was all about the rapture, and literally millions of people across the world just disappear. Their clothes, their belongings, everything just drops to the ground, and they're gone.
There's been Indian tribes that have disappeared like that.
Yeah, they say that the Aztecs and a couple of South Americans have just done that. No. But I mean, what they're telling us in films right now is to me, it's like all these factions going, no, it's our script that's going to play out. No, it's our script that's going to play out. No, it's our script that's going to play out. And they're all fighting for front row seats. I'm floored by the movies and the stories and what they're telling us. And it's almost like we could start laying bets on whose date who's going to return first. Is it going to be
showing up? It's a big party.
Yeah, it's a big party.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of questions in the chat room too, by the way.
Okay.
So go for it, Dee.
I just want to say is because, of course, I have 4 kids, so I'm, you know, watching what they watch. And I mean, I've talked about it before about when we were back in Canada. I'm telling you, I am so fucking glad to be out of North America, that my kids don't even accidentally have access to these kids' TV channels anymore. Holy crap. But even the movies, I went through this whole thing just in the last couple of months going, oh, look what they're doing with kids' movies and adult movies too, obviously. But there's been this real push in kids' movies to make the bad guys into the good guys. Right? So, for example, Disney comes out with the movie, and oh, it was so disgusting, Maleficent. And I literally, Nick and I, someone had brought it to us like on a stick, and we were like, okay, well, Quinlan wanted, my eldest daughter wanted to watch it, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be watching that first. And Nick and I sat and watched it, and the whole time we're like, oh my God, like this is horrific. And it's basically the story of, you know, Sleeping Beauty, and we know the evil witch, fairy, whatever, who is the one who caused all the shit, who tried to kill the princess, who tried to ruin everything, because they've twisted the whole storyline around to make Maleficent, the evil bitch queen, to be just misunderstood. And you look at the movies, and then all of a sudden, like one of my kids' favorite movies is Hotel Transylvania, which is, I think, a Pixar movie. And it's a cute movie. It's really, really funny. And then I kind of, same thing, stood back and went, okay, wait. So Dracula, Frankenstein, the werewolf, all the skeletons and the ghosts and that, they're all the good guys. And the bad guys are the humans. Because they're evil and they're hunting them down. And they've had to build this castle where they isolate themselves because the evil humans are coming to get them. All these over and over. And it's, about kids are the creative ones, aren't they? And what is being thrown at the kids to change that perception and to give them a script to follow?
You know, the only one I'm going to speak to there is Maleficent, because I had a different take on that completely. Because a lot of those stories are very old. And then Disney came along and Disneyfied them. And in most of the Disneyfied versions, you will find that the evil character is a woman. And the heroes of the story is usually a young woman she's usually parentless. She's been made to grow up far too quickly and put into these situations and sexualized and, you know, married off at a young age and all these sort of horrible things. To me, that was potentially taking the Disney-esque out of that movie and taking it back to its roots, because I think maybe Disney demonized Maleficent. And so I took a different take on that.
See, and I agree with you, because I read the original stories. I were coincidentally just talking about Grimm's fairy tales last week. Coincidentally. But the problem is that the perception of what it is has been well planted by Disney, right? So Disney goes through and they spend 50, 60 years planting these perceptions. And then they come along and go, well, you know.
Yeah.
Just misunderstood. So, I mean.
Okay, I need to get to some of these questions because they're going way back now. Sorry.
Okay.
Where are we? Can Gary define equity? You did that. Okay. Thanks for the definition. Does it entail sweat equity?
Sweat equity is your labor.
Sweat equity is your labor. Yep.
Yeah.
Where the other one is, I'm confused. Where is the AI Gary is talking about? Everywhere.
It's all our technology. Basically, anything Anything you put on form, capture. Right now, everything we're doing right here is being captured by AI. It's running through artificial technology. But it's part of the thing. It's not like it's going to go away. We just need to get it back in balance again. It's running our lives.
Want to hear more about Dee's research? Yes.
Because Mel wanted to chime in here.
Oh, sorry, Mel. I was looking at the chat room. I missed it.
Hey, guys. Okay. One of the ways in which you can specifically always have a look at where the or how or if there is any validation to the claim of artificial intelligence. Again, you just have to look at the etymology. Okay, and you take the word artificial, and what I always say is look at the words that are closest to it. Okay, so you take the word artificial. Now, the word for me that comes closest to artificial is official, okay, which is O-F-F-I-C-I-A-L. Now, the double F is actually the modern English transliteration of the PH, and then you've got the offy serpent root word, okay, and official, okay, but also the artificial, the AR is the transliteration of OR, and you can see that common from, for example, the sound of war and whore are the same, although war is spelled AR and whore is spelled OR, it is still the same sounds, it's just a transliteration of the vowels. So art, the very fact that it's an ART specifically, because we do reference to the fact that the word art references serpent art. Okay, it is a creation of the serpent. And again, artificial intelligence, yes. You know, are these, what controls ultimately everything? Is it really, does it stop at the dragon level, reptilian level, serpentine level? Because we know that exists. The evidence is prevalent in every culture throughout the world. We can't deny that. Is there something above them controlling them? And is it natural? Is it something that grew like a tree out of earth and was organically evolving for the betterment, you know, through natural creative process, or is it something that's just been perniciously forced and very twisted and just in a very negative black downward spiral that ultimately never can win and needs a little help rectifying?
Nice. I was wondering about the EFF, if that correlated there.
Yes.
Very good.
Yeah,
okay.
It does.
Thank you.
So the OPPT filings could be used to file a claim in equity, is the question.
In the concurrent equity that's been created by the bar, probably yes, but in true equity, no.
Okay. I'm not too sure what this is referring to because we missed it, but is it digital, physical, in a computer, on Earth? Oh, this is back to the AI, I guess.
AI is
or
definitely
is this stuff,
digital.
or is this off planet? Right. Digital, physical.
Yeah. I guess it's what universe. I guess if you're on the round planet or the flat planet, might have something to do with whether.
That's a whole other conversation. Okay. I heard the Melchizedek energy was connected to computer server, or maybe is the server. Has anyone heard anything about this in regards to AI? Melchizedek.
I don't know. They found computers in them cities underwater that are thousands of years old, supercomputers. So, for us to have the world we have right now, and for AI to do what it does, for what the technology does, it's had to have been here for a long time.
Could Gary elaborate on free will? Didn't quite get that.
Free will. What's the word free? To be free means there's something else there. It's a divided state. To
be separate from?
Yeah, You have to be free from something. So it's the concept of free will is basically playing to our ego and imagination. There's what was it? I think I heard it on one of these calls the other night. The idea that the Old Testament is gone and it was replaced by the New Testament. Well, the Old Testament is the covenant that the New Testament's all about. There's always a hierarchy in the macrocosm because it's the divided condition that's giving us the physical experience. So it's the matter of keeping it balanced. We're looking for balance. We're trying to stand on that equator in the middle where we can see both sides. There's a lot of different. Some people call it the thesis, antithesis, synthesis. There's all different ways of looking at it. But there's always this three thing. The idea is that it's a two-dimensional or it's duality. You're ignoring the third part, that the two conditions you're looking at are together. They're two halves of the whole. And that's what Walter Russell's stuff was all about. That's what Oldenkamp shows when he starts taking everything in reverse. The AI is trying to get us to think a certain way. Where we correct the AI is taking back our power. Doing that. AI is just mirroring the human. It wants to survive. It's in a survival state. It's capturing everything it can get its hands on. So why is it fear? Why is it fear survival? Because the human fears survival. It can only get what we give it. It mirrors us.
Well, here's an interesting thing, because again, like I said, I was going down a whole crap load of rabbit holes recently, looking at ancient texts and that. And I was saying last week, right, that I sat down and one night and read the Apocryphal of John, which is really, really interesting. You drag your brain through it.
Oh, yeah.
The premise of it basically is that source, if you will, and I'm really, really paraphrasing. Source as a duality, male and female, and of course it was the female who made the boo-boo, because, it's always the woman.
Just ask Disney.
Creates accidentally this being, this piece of her. It comes out, it contains her light, her energy. Okay. Now and this is what is the beginning of where they say you get Yahweh, the Anunnaki, if you will. That was my interpretation reading it, is when you start talking about the creator, as in the not source, not what we would call source, God, etc., but the creator, the one who created the petri dish here. But he has no creativity. He can only mimic. He can mirror, but he has no ability to create anything new. And I think that comes into play with this whole thing, and I think we could tie that in even on
a certain level. You just described AI.
Exactly. AI doesn't have this, and if we can call AI that, like I said, it always comes down to words, doesn't it? Like, what can you use as a word to define and in a way that everyone will understand, because we all have our own vernacular. So if you look at this entity, we'll call this an entity, we'll call it a entity, a being who created in mimicking, in mirroring what it had already had in this matrix. And that is AI. And under my understanding, is from what you're talking about, Gary, is that is the artificial. It can't create anything new. So same thing. It is terrified of its own demise because it knows that it has no control. It can't create anything else, i.e. it can't create anything new. So, and that is the mirror that we have, is that whole same thing of like the collapse.
Okay. If we use the word matrix for AI,
yep,
and we visualize literally the computer screens out of that movie.
Oh yeah.
then that's what you're talking about. So this AI,
it's a parallel world here. It's I did, when I was researching the word trans, it kept going through all the different words and definition. You know what it came back to? Shapeshift. So what are you shapeshifting? Are you going from micro to macro, public to private? The whole concept of shapeshift is how we can change our thinking. You know, we can go from being one to part of everything. You know, that's where that whole thing comes out of.
Okay, so hang on. Let me just get this out of my head, because I don't know where it's going. So try to tie in everything you guys have just said. So if the AI / matrix is nothing more than a digital computerized version mirroring the original organic creation, and it can't create in and of itself, all it can do is mirror, then in an attempt to hijack the organic creation, all it can do is kind of continually spit out the same script, the same numbers, and replay.
Right.
And it requires us to create that spark, so it can then grab it, capture it, add it to the program.
We feed it,
which is why now this is why Dee and I were experiencing what we did in Morocco with certain individuals, using us to see what was going to happen next, using our intuitive abilities and our dreams and our whatever to try and read what was down the pipeline, because it only then could it then be kind of attempted to be hijacked and manipulated and controlled and added. Oh my God, my brain's just
AI needs code, and it needs a man or a woman to push the button to turn it on. It's totally dependent on us.
Okay, so I'm going to jump in here because this just struck me. I am an optimistic person by nature. Ridiculously so sometimes. But here's the thing, though. It can only mirror what is, and we are what is. And as we are expanding, it can't do diddly fucking shit about it. It can throw stuff to try and to push it down, and that's what we're seeing in the global distractions right now. We're seeing in the Baltimore and the Ferguson, and we're seeing with the Jade Helm, and we're Yemen and Ukraine, and all this and all this shit is being going out. It's like distract, bring everyone down, make the fear. And I think that, again, I'm 100% convinced that is one of the pieces of CERN. Is that altering of frequencies to try and pull the frequencies down. But in the end, we are what is. And it's fucked. And it knows it. Because you can't stop what is. And we are what is.
Yeah,
so we win. We win. That's it. Game over. Okay, let's all go.
Well, let me show you. Okay. Equity in commerce. Okay. Commerce is this transmuting utility. It's in between what we call public and private. Okay, listen to these two maxims. Okay, and these are the maxims of pure equity from the 20. Equity will not complete an imperfect deed, and equity will not aid a volunteer. So what is a volunteer? A volunteer is someone who's holding an imperfect deed. Now, what is a deed?
Exactly. What is a deed?
A deed is one of those dual meaning words. Phonetically, it's the same as dead. It's the centerpiece of the concept called the public. A deed is a doing, an action, a transaction, event. So that's everything we can do movement-wise. But it's also a legal document which mirrors a contract. So that's the root word that they built the whole thing on, deed. It's all about the deed, which is dead. Now, when you get into quantum language is all about contract, okay? It's based on now time versus past, present, and future. Why? Because past is already gone, the future's not here yet, and present is an oxymoron. Pre is future and sen is past.
D, you're muted.
Yeah, present is an artistic word that cannot be used to express contract or fact in contract.
Exactly. And when I read that, Gary sent me some notes over, and when I read that present, I was like, oh, it was another one of those moments like when Mel told us about the in the first episode of Dragonology, and I went, thud, holy shit.
Now, this is really interesting, okay, because quantum, words with a single syllable vowel at the beginning are negative words. You can't use them.
Example?
Yeah, define that, please.
Unique. You would not be able to use the unique in quantum because they use a single syllable at the beginning. Also, words that are a vowel followed by two consonants are negative words, which eliminates a lot of words. So,
like official?
Yeah, ART. There's tons of them, and that's where it really, where you can see the difference between equity and quantum is when you start looking at the language. Now, equity, or what David and Mel Ve does, if you dig deeper and you start looking into equity and understand the principles of chancery and everything, you will see when you go back and you look at David and Mel Ve's stuff, he's respecting equity. He does everything in the district court. He does quo warranto. Like if you were going to sue somebody in government in the United States and you were going to use quantum, the first thing you would have to do is you would have to syntax all the stuff that you're refuting, and then you will have to submit the corrected form. You can't just do quantum and fight with it. You have to bring forth the correction. And so when you do this, what David and Mel Ve does is it goes right to the Attorney General, and they use the principle concept called quo warranto, which is equity. See, where you take care of your own. This is your business, you take care of your own. But here's the correction. So all Miller stuff sealed, which is where most of his critics come out, because you're not going to go online and pull up his cases because they're sealed in district court. When you do something in true equity, it's sealed. You know, the discharge and dismiss, those are bullshit words. For a case to go, it needs to be extinguished, because it needs to be extinguished on both sides. There's two sides to the ledger, and you're only dealing with one in our public courts.
Hold on, Gary. Sorry, can you just clarify that a little bit more, because I just had a thought about something, but I'm not
on your court cases.
Well, what you just said about it
dismissed.
needs to be cleared on both sides, like you said, and you said dismissed, and I missed the other
discharge.
Discharge.
Okay. Those are the common words that are used with cases. Because remember, everything's digital, right? All that paperwork filed, it's all digital. If you're in equity, it never happens in a courtroom. It happens in chambers. It's called in camera. The judge takes off the robe. He wears two hats. That's what equity is. Now, what we're bringing this back to the language, what I found, and this is predominant, nobody wants to deal with the quantum. Nobody wants to take command and control their language. So what they're doing is they're going in and they're getting trying to get equity in camera. But when you go in in camera and you don't have control of your language, guess what? The chancellor has a choice whether he's going to contract with you and be your partner. This is where it comes back to an individual. It takes two to be an individual. You have to have the macro on the other side to truly be seen as you. You can't be heard. You have to have that contract. So the answer to balancing this out is the contract. But what you have to be careful of is that you don't let it get captured by AI, because the minute it gets captured by AI, it becomes a character in the script. What you guys talked the other day, I forget, maybe it was Bradley or whatever, the Ark of the Covenant is the Ark of the Contract. It's the contract. That's the macrocosm, 1-to-1, one person to one person. That's where all the power is. Everything else is mirroring that. They took the word deed, and the deed copied us. With that word, we're dead. Deed dead. Deed, the dual meaning. Every action, transaction, anything we do, anything that can be witnessed is considered to be a deed. We're performing a deed. The other side of it is the contract. It's the legal written document. And that's those two maxims I gave you. Equity will not complete an imperfect deed, and equity will not aid a volunteer. All of commerce, everything in commerce runs around those two maxims.
Well, here's the little thing that just struck me when you're talking about discharge. And I mean, I've been reporting on it for ages now, is we have all the big banks who are being charged for things like LIBOR and things like the manipulation of with loans collapse, et cetera, et cetera. And they're all being discharged and paying. So I keep commenting on that and saying, okay, look, if you look, okay, JP Morgan Chase just paid $80.5 million, not because they won or lost, but because they cut a deal. They were discharged by cutting a deal so that they are not, it's like you said, it's taken out of chambers. It's like, okay, no, we're not going to do this here in this court of law. We're going to go back here, like you say, and the judge takes off the rope, and they cut a deal to have the charges be discharged for a set price.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very, very interesting, because almost all of these big court cases against the big banks are all going down that exact same route.
Yeah, it's all being reincarnated. Bricks and all that stuff. It's all kind of funny because you can see all the holograms. Heck, this morning, Mom was listening to the news and said that Al Qaeda's fighting ISIS now, so Al Qaeda's the good guys.
Oh, don't even.
I mean, they brought down the Twin Towers, and now they're already the good guys.
Oh, don't you? I told Transpicuous News Sunday night, and I discussed the whole thing of what happened in the Golan Heights last week in Israel. It took me 19 articles in 5 hours to figure out who the fuck was firing on who. Because it was ISIS, and there was Al Qaeda, and there was the Syrian rebels, but then there was also these other guys that were like, there was 2 different versions of Al Qaeda, and then these jihad guys who were actually Syrian, perhaps pro rebels, who decided they're now ISIS, and then Israel got involved, and they started firing bombs at Syrian armed bases on their side of the border, and Syrian fought back, but at the same time, they wiped out these ISIS guys, including 2 Saudi Arabian guys that no one really knows how the hell they got there. 19 articles in 5 hours, and I still don't have a fucking clue what the fuck happened in the Golan Heights last week, and I don't think they do either. And it's the same thing in Yemen. Yemen was the same thing last week, where they've got ISIS and they've got Al-Qaeda, and now Saudi Arabia is providing Al-Qaeda with weapons to fight the Houthi rebels who are supposedly being supported by Iran, and the tribesmen are fighting against ISIS, who've just shown up in their pristine little costumes. And like literally, I think the AI has flipped its fucking lid.
There's a glitch in the system.
There's a glitch in the system, because I'm telling you, I literally spend hours upon hours upon hours reading every story that comes out of Syria, Saudi Arabia. Google Translate is literally almost blowing up. I'm translating so many articles just to try and figure out. And honestly, it's come down to the fact I don't think they know either. And I actually made the comment about whoever's providing them with the intel obviously needs to twitch their decoder ring, because seriously, no one is getting the right messages anymore. But let's look at the AI angle of this. And with all the mass confusion, no one knows what's going on. And it's almost as if it's being played out for us to see. That even the AI is like just randomly throwing shit around, going, okay, let's put Al-Qaeda and we'll throw some ISIS guys in there, and we'll just see what happens, because God knows I don't know what else to do.
Well, isn't it funny that we have this push with all this spying and everything over the last year? You had the Snowden thing and all that. Everybody's doing their little pole shifts and trying to capture intelligence, and you know, it's working from both sides. It's really crazy what's going on. So.
Okay, guys, I just wanted, because we've only got half an hour left, so I don't want to leave any of these questions hanging if we can avoid it. Is the AI just an intelligence, or is it fully conscious and sentient? We may have answered that already.
You know, that's questionable. You know, what's out there that we haven't seen? You know, I mean, it's been here for a while. I mean, I know you can do certain things and you can activate the moon, so who knows?
Well, see, I mean, even there to me, we've seen multiple glitches in the AI, in the Matrix, in the whatever you want to call this thing, right, in the hologram. We're just by observing the moon. And is AI, or does it predate humans, or come from off-planet sources, or did we collectively create it?
I think we created it. I think we were far more advanced at one time than we are now.
Oh wow! There's a twist.
You know, it's like when I said it first. Advanced intelligence versus artificial intelligence. Did we just stop watching what we created and it got out of hand?
Well, that really does bring you back to the movie The Matrix, then.
Yeah, Matrix.
If it was created by humans past of long ago, it got out of hand, completely took over the show.
Like Terminator?
And now we're the Neos who are starting to wake up and trying to take control back.
Well, that's what I think so funny. You know, you did the whole thing on Lash, and I sent that around over here, man. You can just imagine how many different groups were attacking that. I sent you Santos remark.
Oh yeah.
The trans is from beyond, across the other side. You know, and they've been feeding this whole transhuman stuff for at least a decade, and I just think it's funny because it's obvious that it's already here. We're living in it. AI and the real world are running parallel to each other.
So here's what I want to throw in, because I just mentioned it a little bit ago, and Gary, you and I talked about it. And this is, Mel, I got to talk to you about this one, because I've been needing to have this conversation with you for I don't know, ages. So again, the first Dragonology episode, and you talked about the word "the," meaning God, and then you look at that as a root. And you look at, I mean, theology, yeah, okay, well, obviously, you sit there and go, well, duh, okay. But the word that jumped at me and he slapped me across the face was thesaurus. Now, if we go back and right, and we look at the whole concept of we are creator beings, words create. And thesaurus, what is a thesaurus? It's finding the words of similar meanings, right? Then you look up,
break them down,
and then you get all the words that mean love. So Mel, like, I mean, is that where we're looking at? Literally, if we look at that creator, and I do not mean source, God, whatever, I mean literally creator, reptilians, dragon, whatever. And the word "the." And I sat there and went, when you talk about the word that we use, first of all, how do you get around using the word "the" in the English language? And you say the house. Whose house? You say, well, the tree. Whose tree? Is that, am I making this connection? Because I'm kind of like sitting there going, because holy shit, that's like.
I'm not sure what you're trying to say here, Dee.
It's that word that's tied to ties quantum to the Dragonology is the and or.
Because words create, and we've been given the idea that "the" means God or creator or AI, let's call it. And then we use these words that then create for that being that cannot create for itself. And the word thesaurus to me literally was like the keyword to the whole thing of just like, here, I'm going to give you this book of words to use so you can create for me and define it and script it for me.
So hang on. So are you saying every time we use the word "the," we're basically saying God, and so we're saying God's house, God's bike, God's everything?
Mel?
Suggest you go watch Dragonology episodes 1 through 7. I did episode 7 on Thursday. And basically everything in our language gives us exactly, I hadn't gone as far as the artificial intelligence. Me, I really stopped at it all comes to dragons. Okay, that's how far what those dragons are, who created them, whether they're machine dragons or what, who knows. But that's where, for me, the buck stops for the dragons. Provable across the board. What is very obvious to me is they've created our language, they've created art, and where the definite evidence of there's some kind of artificial intelligence involved is the repetition of the pattern that keeps coming back up in the language. And that's the one thing that if you are an artificial intelligence, we've spoken about this before, you build upon what you know. We are the creative principle able to venture into new things. It needs us to survive. Okay. Several things here. First off, that old, it's a big new age adage, but, we grow the creator above through the flesh below. Okay. There is some validation to that, but also that thoughts are creative. And that what we are thinking and what we're putting out there is being replicated. And to be honest with you, that is the reason why the planet is in such a dire state. Is because if you think about 90% of the thoughts that go through the human head are predominantly negative. Okay, and just in changing the way we think, we can change our entire reality. Imagine we change that from 90% negative to 90% positive. We could change our reality overnight. So, yes, definitely. In so many levels, there is evidence pointing to the fact that this is artificially controlled. What that artificial entity is, we may not even have concepts to conscientize it. Words are so limiting for a reason. They've been put there to limit the way we think and the way we perceive. You know, we were told that a sound is expressed through a symbol that looks like this. Someone made that rule for us to learn, conscientize, and then build the building blocks that would then form a word. Who made those decisions? And what was the intent? What did those symbols mean beforehand? What are the words that made that word, the root words, what do they mean beforehand? And therefore, what are we really saying? I mean, we've been taught that language means one thing when, you know, quite clearly there are double or triple, quadruple entendres to everything. Multiple meanings, even just in looking at the symbol. And what you were talking about, Elisa, yes, the word the, at the beginning, the word the comes before a subject of a sentence. So the man, or you would say a man. The man crosses the road, or you'd use the indefinite reference of a man crosses the road. But look what the letter A is as well. It's the all-seeing eye in the capstone, capital letter A. It's the capstone removed from the pyramid. If you look at the back of the $1 bill, that's exactly what it is. That is what the letter A represents. Alpha, coming first. The primary, the God. Okay? So if you're not using the, you're using A because they're the same thing. Using the God, the principle, you know, the primordial, the creator, the artificial intelligence in charge of everything, the program. That's it, you're referring to it. So
we just need the planet to go mute for like a week.
A new language. We're not meant to, I don't believe we're even meant to be talking. And I agree with, if there's an artificial intelligence that's taken us over at some point, we created it, took us over. What it did was it shut down a capacity to communicate telepathically or the other way, which we communicate through emotion, feeling of energetics. Because we didn't communicate telepathically because we didn't have the words and language for me to say psychically to you, give me a sandwich. Okay, we wouldn't even think like that. It was all energetic feeling, and that the words, the language, all of that's been given to us when this AI took us over to limit us and shut us down.
I agree. Yeah, just two things I didn't mention about quantum. In quantum, there's only two verbs, is and are. Is is singular, are is plural, and then it's not meant to be a language like we're speaking right now. Its purpose is for contract because it can bind the fiction. It can make, if you use quantum, it makes the little man behind the curtain come out. It's its sole purpose. And there's really a lot of allegory when you look at the movie The Wizard of Oz, when Toto flipped the curtain. It wasn't just a little man standing there. It was a big computer.
Interesting stuff, guys. Okay, I know that there was a comment in the chat room about this conversation being a bit disjointed, and I agree. It has been. It's been all over the place. And I do apologise, but there's just been too many things that have popped up and taken us down different roads. Words create frequencies, and the universe is comprised of frequencies. Yes, it is.
Can I just say that research and the way that it's done, in terms of everybody here is on their own little journeys, find little parts and trying all to bring it together. And apologies if it all does seem disjointed. For my part, I'm looking at this from sitting here, watching all the research, going through all this material that gets produced on this network, and it for me, it all just ties in so perfectly. So if you aren't familiar with any of this material, please do go back and watch some of our previous stuff, and it will make more sense. Because one of the great things about having the round table is the ability to bring all the elements of research to the table, pull it apart, put it back together again, and that may be a disjointed process because nothing's being handed to us on a plate. Okay, there is no set format to anything. If it was, we probably wouldn't even be doing this. We'd be eating off that plate and enjoying ourselves, you know.
And these discussions, these roundtables, are an opportunity for us to come and basically bring stuff to the table and workshop it, and not just between us, but between everybody who's listening, and as everyone throws in their little pieces. And on a good show, we've all come out of it at the end with a bit of an aha and a more solid picture of what's happening. I mean, I loved it. This is my favorite thing to do, these shows, I have to say.
Well, the other thing is
I feel like I'm putting a big piece of duct tape over my mouth.
But you know what? Every show that we've done, how many conversations have we had 2 hours later, 2 days later, and gone, oh, and then we did this, oh, and then I sat back and I thought about, oh my God, and then you bring, for example, we'll haul Gary back on again and be okay. So now that we've had a chance to digest, and the listeners have had a chance to digest, things coalesce into a more streamlined conversation, we'll say. you have to throw out the ball of mud first and see what sticks to the wall.
Yeah. I would also like to say, and I say that give Lisa this comment very often, but it's so true for Dee as well, because I work with him, particularly Dee, on a day-to-day basis. And that is, both of you, your journalistic process, and I won't even use the word journalistic, but your process of dealing with information is very much journey driven. It's never a case of, oh shit, I've got to do a show. Let me think about what I can talk about. You guys really, it's a journey of discovery for you. And this is something you take the information and engage it deep within your experience and your reality. You conscientize it. It's not just a dabble. It's an experience. It's not an auxiliary thing to you. It's something you that becomes part of you with everything that you're doing. Not that you always agree with every point of view expressed. And that's what makes it such an organic and real process. And why I enjoy working through the information with you guys is because it's not okay, let's be talk show hosts and talk about something interesting so that we seem clever. No, we're experiencing this for real. This means something to us,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's okay. The person who wrote disjointed is actually referring to the chat room, and that's fine. I get that too.
Oh, shame.
No offense taken, but
yes.
And this is someone else's favorite show too. Sarah's favorite show too. Thank you, Sarah. We enjoy it. Oh, Mel, when you were talking, then you prompted me to want to say something, and then I forgot it. No, it's gone. Okay, sorry. Moving on. Okay, I think we've covered everything, and if we haven't, I apologise. In the chat room, we could probably repost it because I may have absolutely lost it. So if you've got any more questions or something that didn't get answered, just pop it in again now for me, please. What if they, or the thing, maybe, that might be closest described as the computer is the animator aspect of ourselves and everything that exists in matter form? There we go with the yeah.
The matter form?
In physicality, I would think is what they mean by that.
Yeah, because if you're going to start using the word matter, I'm going to start tearing apart the definition of matter. But okay, physicality, I'll go with that.
Yeah. Well,
the animator aspect.
I mean, if you think, why when somebody's born you need this bureau come up, this Bureau of Vital Statistics? Why is it so important that you get your blood footprint? Well, there's a real contract. At that birth is the blood of the mother and the child. They're trying to claim it's a perfect deed, but it's not. But that's what they're mirroring. It's a contract. We have an imagination. Everything AI is, we already are. We're a threat. You have an ego. You have an opinion. That's why the public is designed. The public's all one. It's this perfect script. It's common to everybody. It's just this perfectly designed thing. And you come up with an opinion. You're not listening to me. All hell breaks loose.
But we've kind of essentially put forward two different premises here. One is that this AI, or the Matrix, was originally created by Source in order to help manage its creation. That's one concept. The other is that humanity, in our ancient history, being far more advanced than we are now, did reach a point of creating a technology that reached artificial intelligence and took over. Does it change how we interact with it, or potentially the outcome, depending on which one it is?
Whoa. Give me a crystal ball and I'll have a look.
You're muted, by the way.
There's an interesting quote in Genesis, verse in Genesis. If you look at the Bible too, half the verses begin with the word "for" and the other half don't. Most people don't realize that, but there's two different styles of writing right in there, going in between the Old and New Testament. But it talks about the tree of life will be guarded by the cherubim and the sword. Sword, words, same letters. Cherubims to hide. Those who don't know, the children don't. What do people do? They'll go out and they'll go bomb somebody and kill somebody for an artificial fiction, because they believe in it. What you believe in,
Okay, question. How might I do not consent play a part in what Gary is sharing? And a comment later down is, could or would not consent act like a virus in the AI?
Do not consent is something that I was a part of it, and it's been here for a while. What's happened now is, if they can look at that computer and there's something that's captured and it can connect you back to the system, they're using what they call assent, where you are a ward of the state and they can think and interpret your words, and by that fact they're determining that your actions, your deeds show that you are part of the system. So the fact that you're expressing, basically, if you really push it, it might get you a 10-day psych evaluation.
Yeah, I'd already come to the conclusion that I do not consent is meaningless in a legal perspective.
Yeah.
It gets you nowhere. They just ignore you. But on a more energetic frequency level, I think it means a lot. Yeah. Whoever wrote that in the chat room. Yeah, I think it does act like an energetic virus.
When you cross through that veil into the micro, into Priebus, what we started off with, your language is you. It's the most important thing. So there's a lot of interesting things when you get into that. We don't want them to get captured all the time, but your language is very important. You have the ability to author and control your own language.
You know what? I just want to say it's funny. You talk about the whole assent thing and tacit consent. I mean, that was one of the things that we got really dug into, with the whole "I do not consent." When I wrote my declaration of "I do not consent," and today, like I said, I had to do government bullshit, and I'm telling you, literally, as I was going to the Government of Canada website and trying to work my way through the site to get the piece of paper that I needed, that they say I need, I literally, there was like this voice in my head screaming, no, you don't want to do this. You don't want to do this. And it was after that I literally got to the point where I had to go lay down on the grass for a half hour. But it was like my entire being fought against me interacting with that entity, perceived entity of government, corporate government. And it literally almost made me sick to my stomach. And yet it's something that I had to do in that moment, and there was no way around it. I had to get the piece of paper because unfortunately, it was like that piece of the matrix that you get stuck in. And yet, yeah, there was just this screaming in my head saying, no, you do not want to play this game. Why are you playing this game?
Here's a little clue. You can be raped in commerce. So,
did you say rape?
Raped. Somebody's
raped.
Trying to have intercourse with you in commerce. Think about it. There's a lot of clues there. It happens all the time.
Okay, someone's asking, I think, what would be a more potent expression than even "I did not consent" be in your understanding of language, Gary, and of quantum? Is there one that even tops that?
Is this like in a situation where somebody's trying to force me into something? Is that what?
No, I think more just on the energetic level.
On the energetic?
In order to put a virus into the AI, what would be even more potent than "I do not consent"?
A one-to-one contract where you witness my language and I witness yours. And if you're going to bring it into the macro, then do the same with a couple others. And, it's at that point, it becomes a pure contract trust. And, it's coming into that realm, and it can't be penetrated because it's interlocked all the way around.
I don't think I understood what you just said.
Yeah, I know. It's not one of those things that English does justice for.
Are you saying any statement as long as it is acknowledged?
Well, yeah,
and accepted by another?
Say, I just off the top of my head, there's that. What's the quote? Do unto others as you have them do unto you.
I've just been asked to translate what you said. I couldn't do it.
Quote equal. It could be.
Oh, this is great, actually. Until I find a way to stop this AI computer matrix program, maybe I could throw a whole bunch of crap at it, like just punching a lot of keys on the keyboard at the same time.
It'll collect it.
make it freeze.
If you look at your keyboard, I mean, there's a lot of symbology on your keyboard or computer. If you look at numerology, I mean, look where the dollar sign in commerce. The number in commerce, that's the generator, is 4. In the public, it's 6. 6 is synonymous with sex. What number's above the 4 on a computer keyboard? Oh, it's a dollar sign.
But someone's just made the observation in the chat room that every computer has an off switch.
Right.
And every network has a mainframe.
Right.
You take out that mainframe, you take out the network.
And
what and where is the mainframe? Sorry?
And they need an energy source.
True.
Yes, they need an energy source because it comes back to, again, that artificial cannot create, must use us to create. And what was it? What was the word we used? The deed of sweats, which meant
sweat equity.
Sweat equity, was that it?
That came up.
Language up some more. Yeah, our labor, our energy. I mean, God knows how many conversations have we had about this and stuff. Our energy feeds it. Right?
So, question. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of talk about astral entities, work in the astral, this and that. Now, could there be artificial astral entities that actually work as energy collectors for the artificial intelligence? Because it would make perfect sense.
Yep.
Because there is so much of this energetic vampiring going on for everybody, on some level or another. I mean, you really have to work hard to clear yourself, purify, and we call psychic hygiene, so that you're not...
Again, Mel, I'm coming up with images of the Matrix film. It's like the Sentinels.
Yeah, exactly.
What if these beings from the astral are just the Sentinels?
You can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the Matrix. When I look at the actual control system that's playing on the planet, the movie I mentioned earlier, The Adjustment Bureau with Matt Damon, is got a ton in it. It's got a ton, and it at the end it symbolizes the partnership, that contract. Because when they walk through that door, the whole thing collapses, and it's got a lot. It's got a lot of visuals in there that tie with stuff too. When you look at the Masons and all that. But the individual definition, when I kind of stumbled on this, I kept always trying to think backwards from the way I was taught to think. And this guy was talking about equity, and I mean, everything this guy was saying was beautiful. And then this guy went off and he hooked up with this other guy to get this quote status to do what he thing. And I was just like, it totally just blew me through the. I was just like, why did he do this? And equity removes form and focuses on substance. Well, you start doing all this citizen status stuff, that's all form. You're filling out forms, you're getting recognition from this person, that person. And that's when it hit me. I went back and I went into this stuff, and that definition, what he's trying to do is by adding a bunch of people, he's trying to recreate that one-to-one contract, and it's not working. It's just going to create a bigger mess because of what he was originally trying to do. The macro is one-to-one.
Sorry, I was just requesting some coffee.
I share.
Okay, the idea that there's a mainframe that we can shut down is kind of really grabbing hold right now. And if we go back to that movie, there was also Zion, right? The organic realm where these computers couldn't touch. Underground. Is that an analogy just for within?
Seems to me it would be a frequency that would shut it down. It wouldn't work in a frequency. I saw this thing once.
That has to be the frequency of love. It has to be. Because otherwise, why so much fear and distraction and fear-mongering? I mean, they're terrified of the frequency of love, I think.
Well, the big deception is to look outside yourself for something. That's the big deception. Look at all these different things that the fears are based. You're looking for this for protection. You're looking for this for your savior. You're looking for this for that.
That was artificial.
One of the oh, sorry, no, go Mel.
So I was saying that which is artificial cannot love. Artificial intelligence doesn't have that capacity necessarily of love and compassion, of nurture, necessarily. Particularly, think about it, if they're so heavily invested in perpetuating such a destructive vibrational pattern. It can only be because they're unable to love or be compassionate or show empathy.
Okay, now I'm also being reminded of a I don't know how to explain it, dream, vision, whatever, download, whatever you want to call it, upload. Back in 2000 and probably 9 or 10, about the moon. And how in this vision, I saw a net, almost like a huge fishing net, cast from the moon out over the planet. And it was the Matrix. It was being broadcast from the moon. And it was a two-way system. They were broadcasting a frequency and a paradigm and a program into it, but they were also reading the collective, using the same net to read the collective. And humanity got together and just sent it this huge blast of love. And it went into the system, it went into the Matrix, it went straight back to the moon, like straight back to base, and blew it up. It blew up the entire mainframe.
That was a movie?
Was there.
Or a dream?
No, this was something that went on just in my head.
Oh.
You think?
But it was this, yeah.
Well, think about it this way.
And that actually came completely out of the blue, and it's what started my whole journey down that particular moon rabbit hole. Was triggered by that vision. But sorry, go ahead, Mel.
Sorry, Liz, I didn't mean to cut you off there. And I also forgot what I was going to say.
Oh, sorry. Moon, love, blowing up mainframes.
Blowing up mainframes.
Yes, I remember now. This is the reason why they work so hard at keeping us separated. Is because that global love thing, that's what they're shitting themselves the most for. They don't want us to get together and start loving each other. Oh my God, that's when it's the end for them. And we all know this. No matter what path we've been coming down, whether we've, the Zionists, the dragons, the this, the that, we all basically know that's the fundamental. That is the winner. That's the game winner. Yet we still don't seem to be able to get the basics right. Like we're still, posturing for protecting our little islands and, ego and all that. And, people just, the lack of emotional maturity and the lack of ability just to get on with it and do what needs to be done, because it's that simple. It really is. And it's not new agey. Oh, we need his love. No, it's powerful. There was a power to it. And imagine if everybody just suddenly stopped shooting each other and one day came out and started hugging each other. Imagine the global collective shift.
Well, Mel, I keep thinking of the opal tomb. And I've been wondering why the hell that thing was cut off at the knees when it was. And
why you were pulled into some back alley valley with no internet and one donkey down, you mean?
Yeah.
For the dead donkey.
Yeah.
I mean, the opal tomb had its faults and problems.
Morning, trust me.
The opal tour had its faults and had its problems, but the one thing that was there was, for me anyway, I mean, the way I experienced it, was that a space was created where people could just be and share and connect, and a lot of relationship, a lot of connection took place. And you could feel, I mean, I used to wake up every other day with this feeling and visual of the energy trail that we were leaving as we were moving across the country. It was like the rainbow serpent. And I know we were doing some good, even in the small numbers that we were talking about. Maybe 100 people here, or the 50 people on the road, or the extra 20 that came and joined us in this spot, whatever, just these little numbers. But maybe it just doesn't take that much. It just doesn't take that many people.
No, it doesn't take that many people, Lisa. It's just going to take, really going to take some people to, and I'll bring this back to a conversation I had with Dee the other night, and back to, again, Franco Collins, because he was the one who said to me parts of these wise words that he's never seen anybody in all the years he's been doing this who's come forward to him with a system or a structure without putting themselves at the center of it. And it's very much about everybody looking at and realizing that your children, my children, couldn't possibly hope to inherit a fair, just, peaceful, sustainable world unless that's an expectation for everybody. My problem is everyone's problem. The fact that I perhaps have no money, think about half the population, the world's population live on less than $2 a day. It's a global problem. The microcosm and the macrocosm mirror each other. And this is it, is that when we stop worrying about, just ourselves and start realizing that what we're worrying about is probably what everybody else out there is worrying about, we actually need to work on this collectively. This is the problem we still have. Too much solipsism in the way people behave. And that's also, again, down to programming. It's because we've been cut off, because we shut ourselves off, because we're afraid of our neighbors, what people will think. And again, it all comes down to breaking down program and being brave enough to break that program down. Not everybody has the wherewithal to go through some of the things that particularly the three of us have gone through and still come out smiling and strong enough to do it all over again several times around the track,
and still being optimistic.
Still being optimistic and, and also still being aware of the responsibility we have always to portray that in a balanced way, because understand that people do look to you to gain understanding to this really fucked up world, and you got to be mature in the way you portray that, because let's face it, it's very easy for any one of us to go all hate porn on this, or fear porn and doom and gloom and, let's be Alex Jones, scream really loud and make lots of money from advertising on our website, but we don't. We take a more hard-worn path. But we do it from a place of honor and integrity, which is, let's look at positive, solutions-orientated ways of going about things and explore every avenue without being judgmental of it and look at the evidence, without having pre-existing.
One of the things I'm really, really, really pleased about and proud to be connected to is the ITNJ, because one of the problems that we've had is enforcement of anything. And we've also had this, like you say, this disjointed, we've got pockets of people all over the world who are brilliant and they've got amazing solutions and they're doing incredible things and they're not talking to each other. And a way of getting to the masses. Now, I think ITNJ, and for those who don't know, it's the International Tribunal of Natural Justice, could actually address all three, because if we bring something major to the tribunal that affects a public figure, like even as Obama or Bush or someone like that, and we actually have the enforcement to arrest them, then the general public who know nothing about any of this is going to go, who arrested them and why? What's going on? That leads them down to a journey of truth. It's a public enforcement is going to be the biggest wake-up call, huge, to the majority of the planet. And it will, the first time it happens, it's not going to take a number of cases. The first time it happens and it reaches public attention, we'll start to bring all of these people and groups together, because everybody will be able to come under it to move their objective forward and get the enforcement for their own objective. So I think there's a lot of potential and beautiful, powerful potential in the ITNJ.
There's a lot of potential. I see a lot of beautiful potential in so many things. Again, it's the only place we fall short is in not pulling together. We all know how to, between our group of our immediate circle of light, and we all know who they are, we know how to create a better world. What we're missing are resources and enforcement. ITNJ, also I'm a founding advocate like you, Lisa, very proud to be involved with it. And I agree with you 100%. And I think that's the reason why we're seeing so much detraction coming in from the trolls at the moment. And there is a lot. People who have been burned by, let's go through the list. The International Tribunal to Crimes of Church and State, we've got the OPPT, we've got Swasindo, we've got the Dragon Family, we've got this, we've got that. And you know what it's done? It's taken all those people who for years have thrown so much enthusiasm, rah, 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 let's go get this, and all of it's been sucked the hell out of them. They're just kind of on the sidelines going, okay, we're just going to stand here neutral and see what happens. And they're not that, driving, they've lost that because they don't want to be left at the end disappointed again after having put all that emotional, energetic support into it. And this is what I keep saying to people is you've got to get past this. It's about emotional maturity. Who cares if you are left emotionally bereft for having put energy into something that didn't materialize? It's not about you. It's about getting behind anything that looks like it's better than what we got and fucking get behind it, okay? Just do it because we are not going to get anywhere if we're all sitting on the side going, let me see if this is going to be beneficial for me. This is a thing that's going to save my little house and my little island because it ain't about you. That's just it. We have to take ourselves out of the equations completely. And I know it's pretty, it's easy for me to say that, being all sanctimonious. I don't have kids and responsibilities of that nature. However, I'm someone who...
You have us.
Yeah, I do. I've got my...
Where your children.
But there is a huge need. There is a huge sacrifice that we do make to be able to pursue the paths and projects that we're involved with. So I have no issue saying to people, just support it. Don't throw the negative at it immediately. It may not work out. It may be a complete failure. But if you set it up to fail before we've even begun, all right, what's the point of that? What is the point? If we don't even try to get this somewhere, we are never going to get anywhere just because we're afraid to try.
Well,
Mel, I said the same thing when we talked to Kiri Campbell about credit exchange.
Exactly.
I said I would rather back the wrong horse 9 times until I finally backed the right one than not back anything, because we're not in a place, we don't have the luxury right now to all sit back and wait for somebody else to do it.
Yes.
And just hope somebody gets it over the line.
Someone's going to do it.
We have, like you say, it's all about division. It's all about disunity, and we're seeing it. And now, and when we get back to frequency again, as we are being frequency attacked, if you will, at the moment, by whether it's CERN, whether it's HARP, whether it's ULF and all the rest of it, okay? You can feel it, and yet, like I said, for the last 6 weeks, the division within the ranks, so to speak, has been exponential and exploded. And I've never before witnessed this much infighting and bickering and finger pointing and just nastiness. And it kind of comes back to the whole ego thing again, where there's all these people and they want to be the one. Their solution is the good one, and only their solution.
Exactly.
If you don't go with my solution, then I'm not playing your game. And yet, what we need is everyone to just fucking drop the egos, drop all the fucking little finickly bitches, and just say, like I said, stand together, arm in arm, and say, I do not fucking consent. And
you can have your own personal list of what you don't consent to, but the thing that we can agree on is that there are things we don't consent to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that was really powerful.
And just start there. And but this is it. It's driving me nuts personally, just watching the continuous fallout and the finger point. And I'm guilty of it. God knows I've done it in the past and still do occasionally when, I'm feeling ridiculously bitchy. The finger pointing that's like, oh, well, I'm not, and I can't, and just shut up already and just do something.
That's it. Just do it. there's so much energy that goes into it, the bullshit. And I just say this quite simply: if we took all that energy and channeled it into constructive things, and I use my experience on the Swiss Inter delegation as it was a year of a group of maybe 60 people working together and having meetings every night, working on creating documents and media pieces and all sorts. And there was so much negativity, fighting, drama, conflict, ego play, tossing, turning, pulling, circle jerking, that I look back now, having pulled away from all that, having started and then took all that effort and energy up into that and started into something else. I just go, do you know what? If every single one of them had taken all that energy and effort they put in over that course of that year into all that drama and channeled into projects, I think we'd all be a lot further along. It's all this, it's misdirection. It's again, perversion, diversion, misdirection, usurpation of energy. Okay?
Mel, I've made an observation that I think, I don't know, something clicked for me. Because I've had some experience over the last couple of years trying to be involved in or create community and what that means.
Me too.
And when the community itself is the focal point, when the objective is the community, it doesn't work. That's what I've seen. Because what you end up with is a bunch of people standing around in a circle staring at each other and pointing fingers at each other.
And discussing what...
However, when people... Yeah. And let's create a Google Doc around that, shall we? But when people come together for a common cause, now it might be protesters coming together, as has happened a lot here right now, to stop coal seam gas, stop fracking, or to protest the removal of these Aboriginal communities or whatever. Because there is a higher goal, the community seems to form by default. It just organically creates itself underneath the platform of that higher purpose and higher goal. And people come together and they will shovel shit, they'll dig ditches, they'll put up tents, they'll build things, they'll do whatever is necessary because it helps everybody do their job for the higher purpose. Yet, if you had a community all standing around looking at each other saying, right, we're going to build this community and someone needs to shovel the shit, you're going to have to draw straws. And there's going to be finger pointing, and I spent 3 hours shoveling and you only spent 2.5, and it's only when we have a higher purpose that I think we stop pointing fingers, we stop looking at each other, we just get in and do what needs to be done. So, and when I've looked at the communities that have lasted longer than 5 minutes, they have a higher purpose. I mean, for some it may be more of a cult and a commune, and they've got some live-in guru, whatever it is. But it's bigger than them. And it's bigger than living in community for the sake of living in community. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes.
And if we have collectively as a planet got a higher purpose and a higher goal, the communities will come together by default in order to support that. Mm-hmm. And they'll pop up all over the planet.
Yep.
Not wishing to get all new agey on you guys, but again, it does come back to something working from not even a higher space, but understanding always the context in which you're working, and that is for the greater good, for the bigger picture. And it's got to move away from the microcosm. The focus has to be the macrocosm, really, because everything is a mirror of each other. And that fundamentally is a huge shift in perspective. And for everyone to get to that point where they're that evolved enough that they can shift their ego, that it's not about them, it's a huge thing. That normally takes people going through a massive trauma to get to that kind of ego shift. Certainly was the way for me. The other thing that really has to happen is people have to genuinely want to unite on their common ground. There has to be that common objective that they genuinely believe in, and not just believe that in associating their external locus of identity with said brand, with said cause, with said pseudo-celebrity person, that it enhances their external locus of identity or how they perceive themselves, or they think that other people might perceive them better through their association with said thing, because it's not about that. It's about understanding the spiritual fundamentals, aligning with that, and being true to that cause, removing the hypocrisy completely as much as possible, because, you know, we also have to use money and there's hypocrisy in that. Yes, understood. But there has to be some way in which you incorporate that practically, those things, those values practically into your life, you know, on whatever level, whether you start recycling or there is something that fundamentally has to change. You couldn't, I don't think anybody could fundamentally go through this shift and still be, you know, what a politician, you know, going to rituals or whatever it is they do. There has to be, I suppose it is judgmental to expect it to be that black and white, and it's not. And I'm not being idealistic, but I do believe you have to commit to that in your conscious awareness, and that comes out in some practical application of manifestation.
Well, this is something else that I want to kind of put in there, because, you know, once bitten, twice shy. So for me, I am and have been in a place, and still am, I am not going to just go and throw myself behind any organization, movement, etc., because I've realized that I need to be me. But that does not mean that I don't support. So it doesn't mean that you don't have to like get in there and sign in a manifesto to go along with this person's ideas. You can still support, you can still be a part of it without being, I hate to use the word joiner, but do you know, am I making sense? We can work together without having to take on a title of, for example, Swiss Indo, using that as, because that's one we discussed. You could work through and work with people without actually having to be.
She gone?
Yep, she's frozen.
In her thoughtful pose.
You know, I saw something yesterday while she's frozen. Do you guys remember the crazy dancer on the hill? There was this video that went viral of this guy dancing by himself like a lunatic
in a music festival,
and at a concert, at a music festival, and everyone's sort of standing around, and then one person gets up and joins him, and then another, and then another, and this video was about how to create a movement. And the crazy guy that started the dancing was the leader. He was the founder, the leader. And until he's got a following, that's all he is. He's a crazy dude. And the power of being the first person to join them.
The first follower. Yeah.
The first follower is often the most powerful position in a way, or the most influential position. Because as soon as they have that one follower, that one joiner, it ceases to be a mad single lunatic. And the momentum from that point of how long it takes from that founder to become two to then become three, it just becomes exponentially.
Yeah, if you study that numerology, that's huge. That plays a big part in all of this. When you look at a system, it's that they'll tell you have a system of 8. Well, you know the magic number is 9 because it's always the next number in the system. It's everything that's not included because the system's fixed. So we have all these things in our worlds, 3, 6, 9, and 12, and that magic number is 13.
Well, wasn't it? Was it Tesla who said If people understood the power of 3, 6, and 9,
that was Tesla. Yeah.
I'd love to put a link into that, but I don't know if I can find it. I'll have a look. We've gone way over time. We've actually gone half an hour over time. Are we going to continue? Are we still
I got to go to another call at 9. So.
Oh, well, Dee's gone. We may as well round it up then.
I do have to clarify something with you, Mel. I heard a rumor. Now, being as disjointed as I am right now, and moving around, I don't often get to participate in the CCN meetings and so forth. Is it true that CCN may not be on air past this month due to a lack of funding?
Yeah, no, it's not a rumor. It's a fact, hardcore fact, simple fact is we live in a fiat currency world, and Biggie and I have absolutely no income. We spend our full time running this platform. We went to a lot of huge extremes to raise the funding, a lot of duress as a result of gaining that funding from people who just wanted to control the whole project. And we managed to get this platform off the ground. And, I just really am always, every day I get up and I look at what we've created and I'm very proud of it. But the simple fact is that we do need some resources to help keep it going. So we've basically launched the Ethymarket, which is where we now keep all of CCN's high definition archives. And basically we've put a funding request out to people, and we've asked people, please, we only need 300 people who are each willing to pledge support to supporting free and independent media. And that's in return for your monthly pledge of €10 a month. You would get unlimited access to the CCN high definition archives. So that's what we give you as your gift in return for supporting free and independent media as a pledger. And it is absolutely true. Yeah, we don't have the funding to continue past May. So we absolutely are reliant on the public stepping up and supporting us, because the only other way for us to potentially fund this would be to accept corporate sponsorship or advertising. And we want to keep CCN and free and independent media in the hands of the people. So we created this for the people. We've given this gift to the alternative media to use for free and to make the most of. And this was never about creating a platform for me. We created it, everybody take their time slots. And then when I saw everyone had taken theirs, I was like, okay, I'll see what's left over and get in there. Never created around me. It was created for everybody else. And it is our gift to everybody else. Help us keep that gift alive. A lot of effort, a lot of love has gone into creating this. And, we get a lot of great response from people who learn from this platform every day. So if you can, guys, pledge and support free and independent media. I personally hate having to ask for this kind of support, but this is the reality we live in. We still have to pay in fiat currency, and I really hate that. I'm still trying to negotiate a way to get my guy who does my groceries to do a swapsy for free for Time Unconscious Consumer Network. But we're getting there. We're working with our communities to get it all sorted. But in the meantime, internet still does cost fiat currency, as does rental. So whatever you guys can do, please, help us out.
Okay, someone just asked for clarification on what that equates to in US dollars. So
no more than $12, as far as I understood. It's €10 a month, and basically, that's $2 at Starbucks a month, really. And what you get, as I said, we bequeath you with a gift of unlimited access to the HD downloads of the CCN part of etymology.com. And there's over 250 shows now in the CCN archive. I mean, tell me any other alternative media network that can put together that kind of archive within such a very few months. I mean, we've done, I think, just a ridiculous amount of shows. Biggie produces 3 to 4 shows every single day, and he's done that since the 1st of January. So all of those are in the archive, and we've got plenty of great stuff coming up. And we really do need a free and independent media body to objectively report on the ITNJ as well. And we can't have a media body that's attached to the ITNJ. So yeah, all very good and well. We've got New Earth Media, we've got the Adventures Beyond Sovereignty, but they're very much all connected to the process. We need independent and impartial media who are able to look at what's going on and not just the mainstream voice, who will no doubt be trashing the crap out of the ITNJ. So guys, please, we need, in order to do this, we need free and independent trials, free and independent media. We've set up the infrastructure for everything. Now people just need to get behind it. And there has been a lot of distraction, a lot of energy vampiric things which have perhaps dissuade people in the past. But the reality is the time is now, and there's never been a better opportunity to get behind something and support it than with some of the things that have been set up. So forget about the distraction, the rumors, the perversion, diversion. If anybody actually has an actual claim or charge against anybody involved they'd like to bring to the table, CCN, open and impartial party, please bring the evidence and any claim and let's look at it. And if you don't have evidence or any claim, forget about it as mere rumor, put it aside and focus on what's important. And that is creating a world that's fit for our children to inherit. And we're trying to do that. Very hard work. We need a support.
I just wanted, Dee's got something to say too now that she's back, but I just wanted to clarify something. Mia in the chat room is confused because she thought CCM was already funded for the first year. And it, as Mel said, it was. There were people who came to the table who were prepared to fund for the first year, but they did want to take over and compromise it. So in order to avoid and prevent that, the funding went with it.
Can I clarify that as well?
Mel and Biggie also sold their car to fund it for the last month or two. So that was the last of the possessions that they had to sell. So I knew that much.
Yeah. Well, this is the real story. We were meant to be getting, how I ended up even on this project was I was given the mandate by Swiss Indo as the head of media for the project. If funding was to come through, we need to have a plan on how it's going to be spent. So in due diligence and in great honor, I went and I put together this plan of how to go about best overhauling global media. And then when no money came through, I looked at how to do that on a much simpler budget because I just wasn't prepared to give up on all the research for it to be a complete waste. And we found a way that was within a reasonable budget that not only made the network accessible to us, but accessible to the user. I mean, Lisa, and you use the system. It's a very easy system to use. I think if you're not a broadcasting professional and you come into a studio and you suddenly asked to do broadcast, it can be overwhelming because you don't know how half the shit works. Well, we've made it a very simple system, user-friendly, and that is the most tricky thing. Any system you create is to integrate it, coordinate it, and make it user-friendly. And with great, we continue to upgrade the system with everything that we do, but you guys have no idea what kind of sacrifices that's taken from our part in terms of what we've had to do to keep this running. Because people who've promised us money have tried to control us. They've starved us. They've kept us prisoner. They've left dead animals on our door. They've vandalized our car. We've been through absolute hell trying to keep this network running. And in the end, we ended up having to sell our car just to afford to keep it running for the last 3 months. And we are down to the last bit of money that we have for food. And that's the reality. If Mel and Biggie can't run CCN, there is no CCN. That is the reality. So we've done as much as we can, given our blood literally to keep it going. And we have nothing else to give. There is nothing left. We just do not have anything else that we could possibly monetize to keep it going. We did the honorable thing by walking away from a total of 10,000 euros, which actually is still legally owed to Biggie. He worked for that money, and we had to walk away because the people who were funding the network weren't doing it because they wanted to create a media network. They were doing it because they themselves were very insecure people and wanted to feed their own egos. And that meant that they wanted to have control and say, and they had no clue. They were absolutely clueless, very destructive people who basically were calling in demonic entities and all sorts. I mean, they would actively talk about how they'd go into the forest and summon demons and things like that. And I was very uncomfortable with this. And we were feeling a lot of unfortunate astral activity around us as a result of our association with these people. And they wanted us to acknowledge their gods. They had someone talking to them, giving them instructions. We couldn't see who this person was. They were telling us that this person was telling them to tell us what to do. And that's when I told them to go get fucked. No way am I paying into that bullshit. So we walked away from a huge amount of money to maintain the integrity of, number one, ourselves. I won't sell out to anybody or some demonic entity that I can't see telling me what to do. And I know what it's telling me doesn't make sense. It's not good for the network, okay, because that's how bad it was, okay. And we had to walk away from a huge amount of money trying to protect the integrity of this network. And, I'm not giving you a sob story, an excuse for it. I promised people that we had the funding for the year. And when we set this network up, we had it. A few months in, when we realized what we'd gotten ourselves into, and you know what, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Anybody coming to you with a huge amount of money, be suspicious. They don't just give it to you, they want something from you. Okay, we should have been suspicious. We thought these people were genuinely good-natured and wanted to help create a better world. No, they wanted to feel better about their own existence. That's all it was about for them. They didn't give a shit about creating an alternative media network. They thought that we were going to glorify them. And it wasn't about them in the end because they had nothing to offer on that level. But nonetheless, they served their purpose. They gave us the funding to set all of this up. We got it set up and the funding's done. And that's just as honest and straight as I can be about it. And if anybody wishes to come forward and take that up with me, I'm more than happy to show them any documentation to prove any claims that I've made.
Wow, I opened a whole can of worms then, didn't I?
I've been waiting for an opportunity to talk about it. Lisa, there's so much that goes on that I keep behind the scenes because I don't feel it's necessary to tell people absolutely everything. Not to worry them, not to distract them, and also not to cause unnecessary gossip and, whatever else. Certain things that just, I think, need to be managed in a certain way.
So in order to support CCN, people can go to Ethymarket. Do you... Can you just put the link into the chat room for me and I'll put it into my chat room and become a subscriber, or you can also just buy individual shows if you want to in high definition, although it's better value to subscribe. Is that it, or just make a donation, I guess?
Well, basically every single show that we do is available for, we upload it onto YouTube. Bottom line is we don't take any... common information is a common heritage of all beings. We are not going to betray our YouTube family by not uploading things to YouTube, but we upload to YouTube with standard broadcast quality. If you want the Ultra HD quality, which we now have, those HD downloads are available on ethymarket.com, and you can buy each show for €5 a show. The better value, of course, is €10 a month, get you unlimited access to every single show. You can no limit on how many times you can access it, etc. So it's obviously the much better value of the two, and it means you become a consistent and regular supporter of alternative media, and I think that's to get behind. And there are those of us who are quite literally dedicating our lives to try to make a difference. Not getting all soapboxes on you guys or anything, but I don't see any point in carrying on unless we make it better. That's just the way it is for me. And we literally every waking moment we get up where we're doing it. This is why I get frustrated with people who sit on the fence, because it's so far removed from my nature. I can't identify or align with it at all. Me, I get behind and I go and I create. And you ladies know, you've been with me since we've started this project. You guys know what's gone into it. You know how much work goes into it. I don't think there's many people out there who could have pulled this off. In fact, I didn't realize that we could do it until we tried. And that's the moral here. It's amazing what you can do when you just try. Yeah.
Okay, Dee, you can unmute now. Or can't you? She's screaming. She can't.
Sorry, I've got so many things open right now. So, yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm back on the house internet because my stick died right in the middle of me soapboxing. Anyways, I gave up. I was like, oh, look, at my internet connection is unstable again. There's a big shock. You guys hear me?
Yeah. Okay, well, she's trying to get her stuff together.
Sorry, guys. I have to turn off. Yeah, I'm going to just move to...
If you do go to the Ethymarket...
Fuck.
Oh, shush, Dee. If you do go to the Ethymarket, there's a fee a registration fee. If you type in the code, there's a discount code. If you type in my name, if you just type in Lisa, it'll waive the fee. Apparently, so Biggy's telling me.
Yeah, it does, absolutely. So you don't have to pay.
It has to be with a capital L, okay?
Yeah, Lisa, you've got your own discount code. So guys, please don't pay the registration fee. Use Lisa's code, and basically that waives the registration fee, and you basically just pay the €10 a month, and you can start downloading from the moment the first payment is made, and it's almost instant.
Okay, cool. Now, D, try again. Take two.
Take two. Sorry. Yeah. So I lost my internet. I tried to get it back, couldn't get it back. And it was like, well, that was the universe telling me it's 1:45 in the morning. You should go to bed. Walked kind of back to the rest of the house type thing. And Nick says to me, oh, you want to take a look at, yeah, Biggie, I'm a slacker. Go away. You want to take a look at what's just happened. Okay, so just before I came on for the show, and this afternoon we've had 4 solar flares that are M class, out of nowhere, out of a dead sun, out of a dormant, 4 solar flares at M class. A little over 2.5 hours ago, we just got hit with an X 2.7 flare. They've only just updated Solar Ham on it. I've already tracked it down. I'm actually on the NOAA site, and I'm on the Russian site as well. It did throw a major radio blackout over Australia, so I'm kind of find that amusing.
I'm still here.
And Lisa's still there, which is really good. Did throw a CME. I don't have the details yet because they haven't released them, of course. I don't think it will be directly, well, it's definitely not geo-effective directly earth-facing because it is a brand new spot that is coming around the eastern limb. But yeah, this X 2.7 flare on top of 4 other flares. Now, we also had a small filament, it was hard to tell. It looked like a small filament came off yesterday and throw off a hydroflare with a CME. That will be hitting us here directly geo-effective tomorrow at approximately 4 p.m. UTC, give or take plus or minus 7 hours. And they're not releasing any information about how big that one was. I wasn't able to pull up the videos in time before the show to try and take a look at it. So yeah, we've gone from a very, very quiet sun to all of a sudden a really, really insane sun.
Well, is it mirroring what's going on here? I mean, with earthquakes, volcanoes. I mean, is chicken or the egg?
Well, this is it. I mean, that's been one of my major questions I've had for a long time now, is everyone's looking at it from the opposite. The sun does this and we have this reaction. But this last week, we've had an immense amount of earthquakes and volcanoes to the point of complete asinine ridiculousness. And sorry, I'm just getting told that I'm very loud and it's 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry. Oopsie. I'm going to wake all my kids up. No, they're used to me. So, yeah, I mean, or is it the other way around? Did I lose you guys again?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. No. Oh, look.
Lisa.
We lost Lisa. I think the radio blackout may have just hit Australia.
I am now the host. Okay. Do we still have Gary with us? Is he still hanging on this call? No, I can hear you. Okay, great. Good, Gary. He's still there, bless his heart.
I'm here. I got to leave in a few minutes, though. I got to do another call in 10 minutes.
All right, Gary. No worries.
I think it is time for us to maybe wrap up the show. We've only gone almost 3 hours. Yeah.
long.
But it was a lot of fun. Gary, it was awesome having you on, and I can foresee that we'll be having you back because we have so
it was fun for me too. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good to talk to you, Gary. Let's catch up soon.
No doubt. No doubt.
Okay, everyone. Well, Mel, thank you so much for being with us. As usual, it's so much fun.
Always a pleasure. I love you, ladies. You know that.
Well, you kind of have, your little permanent seat here on the round table. Anytime you want to jump in.
Permanent guest seat. Yeah, no worries. I guess I'll just fill in for Brow while he's, I don't know, off enjoying Bali for a bit.
You're going to have to practice your giggle then. Okay, well, everyone, thanks so much for joining us tonight on the round table. And as I said, I'm pretty sure we will have Gary back again soon to pick up where we left off here, because there's a lot of loose ends I know that we're all going to want to jump down some rabbit holes.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, everyone, have an awesome week. I will try and get an update out first thing tomorrow morning with the solar activity, because something tells me there's a lot of stuff about to start happening again. So we'll see you. I'll see you tomorrow night on Conspicuous News, but we'll see you on the round table again next week. Good night, everyone.
Good night.